Good morning. Here we are. We made it to June. Can you imagine? I just finished a real estate market update, and I'm going to start this the same way I started that, where we got through the toilet paper craze. We got through the bread baking, the cookie making, the Netflix binging, what else? Puzzles. You know, every couple of weeks it was something different that we were trying to keep busy with. And it's really been a fascinating time, hasn't it? The last 12 weeks have almost been like living in this kind of a twilight zone where, you know, it feels like normal, but then it really doesn't feel like normal. I mean, it's really hard to put into a sentence, right? You wake up in the morning, and if any of you have seen that movie Groundhog Day, where you wake up and you're like, okay, now what? You know, you're still home and you're still doing the same old thing. So what I realized very quickly is that the only way to get through the 12 weeks, let's talk about back mid-March. The only way to get through those 12 weeks that were ahead of us, we assumed, was to have a goal of some kind every day. Now, whether that goal was baking bread back then, whether it was trying to find sanitizer or gloves or masks, maybe that was the little things that you had to do. But if you were diligent in wanting to keep your business alive, then you had to come up with a new schedule, didn't you? And I know that it wasn't easy, I should say. It was hard. It wasn't easy for a lot of people, especially if you were homeschooling. Because trying to school your own children online is a very, very difficult task. Sorry, my eyes are watering. It's like really windy out here today. It's a very difficult task. And I applaud you, because whether schools are almost finishing, if you have high school children, maybe the schools have finished. If you have primary school kids, there's just a couple of weeks left. You have made it to this point. Be proud of yourself. However far you managed to get with your kids, it hasn't been an easy time. And, you know, it hasn't been easy for the kids either, because their whole worlds have been thrown upside down. They haven't been able to see their friends, which, you know, if they're young, if they're old, whatever age group they are, it's been difficult for people. And as adults, you know, if you are normally a very social person, I think you've probably found it hard, you know, to be home all the time. You know, you can pick up the phone, all the Zoom calls that have been going on. I mean, talk about hundreds of Zoom calls and meetings and so on. So it has been a challenging time, but here we are. We made it to almost the middle of June. So my question now to you is this: what's next? Rather than continue to have the mindset that there is still this pandemic going on, which we know it's around and it's going to be for a while, because, you know, there is no vaccine yet, and so on and so forth. And so everyone just has to take their own precautionary measures. But what about you? How are you going to move forward now? So let's say, you know, the panic is over. The paralysis of not knowing what's going on is over. You need to make a plan for yourself moving forward. And if you haven't, now is the time. Don't let every single day keep going by without you doing something that will move you forward in life, in business, emotionally, spiritually, because a lot of people, and I've been talking to a lot of people over the last 12 weeks, whether that is, you know, in my real estate capacity as the owner of a brokerage and my agents, whether it's in the capacity of the coaching company that I have, everyone has gone through this time in their own way that they needed to get through it. And that's fine. But at some point, you have to say, okay, so now I need a plan moving toward my future. Because We feel paralyzed when we are just taking each day without a plan and we don't know what we're doing. But if you can become excited, and I actually heard this on a podcast I was listening to, and it said, if you can make one exciting thing for yourself a day or a week, you have something to look forward to. Because if you've found it hard when you wake up in the morning to feel motivated, and jump out of bed and what am I going to do today? Oh yeah, nothing. I can't go anywhere. If you constantly have that frame of thought or that mindset, then every day is going to be a real challenge for you. And it's going to be hard to put a smile on your face. It's going to be hard to talk to people. I was actually thinking about this the other day, and the fact that we've been home about 12 weeks, in those 12 weeks, how many people have you actually reached out to that you hadn't been talking to for years, let's say? I mean, technically, this would have been the time to talk to people and reach out to people, but I think that people were so caught up in their minds and in what was going on around them and the panic and the fear of the unknown that, in fact, in the last 12 weeks, you probably haven't reached out to many people at all. So, what if you decide today and moving forward that you're going to pull yourself back up again, give yourself something to look forward to every single day and every single week, no matter what it is. Have something to look forward to, whether it's a morning walk, whether it's a bike ride. Now that the weather is better, what if you just get out and you're going to go for a walk in nature once a day or every couple of days? Think of something that will get you going, make you feel motivated, because those are the things that will keep you moving during times like this where we still don't really know what's ahead, but we don't need to know what's ahead. But you do need to capitalize on the day that you've got in front of you. And that's what I find a lot of people aren't doing. I had a very interesting conversation with a past client who's a friend now. And we were talking about what this time has done for people. And, we were reminiscing going back to, let's say, middle of March. And he was saying, it was kind of touch and go. I wasn't sure if we were all going to be able to manage in the house together because everyone was working from home. I had to do Zoom calls. My wife had to do Zoom calls. The kids have to do Google Classroom and other calls like that. And he said, here we are, all trying to figure out whose space is what and who's working from where and how are we all going to do this together when for so many years we've each known our area in the house and when we needed to work, and the kids are at school this time, so this is when I do this. Well, when all of that goes upside down, now you stand back and say, oh my God, are we actually going to get through this? So it's interesting to have now the conversation 12 weeks later. And he said, you know what? We are closer. At some point, we decided that there was no point in us getting angry with each other and losing our patience and arguing when we're in this together. We're all suffering or feeling the strain of what's going on. So why are we taking it out on each other? Let's figure out how we're going to make this work. And so now, they've had a great time. The kids maybe didn't do as much as they should have because it was hard to get them motivated. But even the kids came around a little bit into the online learning, because it really has been an eye-opener for everyone. And if you are in business and all of a sudden you had to go on to Zoom, I'm sure you found that to be, something different because you had to put yourself on video. I hope you didn't keep your screen black and just have your name written there and that you actually showed yourself so people could see you and talk to you and look you in the eyes, because that's the whole point of the virtual communication, is to see each other and talk to each other. I actually realized this morning, after doing my market report by video, that I hadn't even done a Facebook Live in weeks. I think maybe it's been like 6 weeks since I've done one. And it's because I've been on so many Zoom calls and I've been doing training every single week that I didn't realize that, well, you know what? Let's go on a live and let's just talk to everybody else who's out there and see where you're going and where you're at and how you have gone past the last 12 weeks. What I would love is if you are watching right now, can you put a comment below and tell me what's the best thing that's happened for you in the last 12 weeks? What's the best thing that's happened? So we've had this global pause around the world. What did you learn from it? What did you gain from it? What benefit did you find from it? I know myself, the beginning was tough, because I have agents and I wanted to make sure that they were okay. So we were having meetings and I wanted to keep checking in on them. Plus I have other friends, in Canada and then in the US who everyone was going through different things, but yet we're all in it together. But what I did learn is that we needed this pause in our lives. We needed this time. And as difficult as it was to be home and not be able to go places and really not have too much to do, it has been a good thing, I believe, for humanity. Because I think everybody really needed to take this pause and reevaluate how they've been living, reevaluate the way that they've been rushing around, reevaluate the fact that nobody, so many people never thought they had time to go for a walk, to work out, to eat healthier. All of these things that we take for granted because we're busy, but yet now we got a chance to do it. And I think that this is going to help reset the way that you move forward in your life. It will help you have made decisions about your future, because Lord knows over 12 weeks we've had enough time to think about that. And we've had family, maybe their family didn't do so well during this. If you had older relatives and they passed during this time, this is heartbreaking. So I think everyone has had a chance to see what's been going on around them, to see what's been going on outside in the world and say, you know what? I actually don't even think that was working out very well. Or look at the way that you were living until this point now and say, maybe that wasn't the best way I could have been living my life until now. Is there another better way moving forward that I can lead my days? So, when we look back on this year, 2020, and I don't know if you're like me, but I was really looking forward to 2020 as this amazing, spectacular year. And it has been, hasn't it? It is most definitely spectacular, where it's a year that we will never get back again. It is something different that has happened. Don't convince yourself that it was all negative, because I think that you're going to find in 2021, when you look back to 2020, you're going to say, you know what? I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my family. I learned a lot about politics. I learned a lot about humanity and the way that people deal with crises. This was a wonderful learning experience that we are still going through, and we can still keep learning from it and growing from it. So I urge you, if you haven't already, take some time and think about the way that you've been living your life until now. During these 12 weeks, what have you learned about yourself, about the way you do things, about the way that you do your business, about the way that you communicate with people, about the way that you've been using social media? Are there things that you can change that will improve your life and help you grow as a person and in business? Because if you can silence what's going on around you and just give yourself a little bit of time, it's going to make a world of difference to you. So I wish you all a wonderful weekend. We're going into the weekend right now. I just thought I'd hop on and do a little quick live, see how you've all been doing. But I'd love if you would post in the comments below, what is the greatest benefit? What is the best thing that you've learned over the last 12 weeks? Forget about the negative. Forget about it. Because there's always going to be negativity. It's always going to be there. We know what the negative parts of all of this are. How about if you just say, tell me what was the best thing that's happened to you over the last 12 weeks? How have you grown? What lessons have you learned? Put them in the comments below. I'd love to see it. Reach out if you ever want to chat, see how you're doing. And I'll come back to you again soon. Have a great weekend.